morning. I'm going to say that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you here in the sanctuary and those who have opted to join us online. Please ensure your electronic devices are muted. My name is Susan Johnston and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm this morning's service leader. Our service this morning is brought to you by the garden team and our music ministers, Rachel Derry, our group of drummers, the tech team, Brian Carey, Cindy Carey, Joss McIntyre and Claire Mills. Our ushers are Barb Wallace and Karen Moore, and the worship assistants, Paula Bornier and Ian Johnston. Our reading will be by Sue Prescott and our homily by Joanna Tunnicliffe. Now, I have a few announcements this morning, and although our Reverend Jamie is away, she did send me an announcement. In the spirit of rest and restfulness, we invite the First Hamilton community to gather online by attending the magnificent talks offered at the Canadian Unitarian Council Symposium this year, including the Reverend Julie Stoneberg and Albert Dumont. You are invited to watch these talks at our usual worship time or any time you feel called to during the week. Links to the talks will be sent in the All Church email and available on the front page of our church website. By redirecting services for these 2 weeks, we recognize the many people who come forward each week to ensure that we have a beautiful Sunday morning experience. As a gesture of gratitude, we offer the gift of rest and renewal. Thank you to the tech team, children and youth religious exploration volunteers, ushers, greeters, worship associates, service leaders, visitor and congregational engagement volunteers, our music ministry teams, and our song leaders. In-person services will return on July the 16th at 10:30 a.m. in the sanctuary. Our building will not be open on the Sundays as we attend to repairs, cleaning, and updates on our building. Thank you for your understanding and compassion. Right, this announcement is from the Climate Action team. Make this a summer climate of climate action. The Climate Action team invites you to ramp up or take on a climate action that you have thought about trying this summer. Perhaps this morning's service will inspire you to consider nurturing natural habitat in your yard or community. On a bigger scale, you could lend a hand in one of the many local non-profit organizations that are restoring habitat in our region. We look forward to hearing about your actions and when we gather again in the fall. For more information about the Summer of Climate Action, go to the Climate Action page on the Social Justice link on the Unitarian website. And from the caring community, thank you to those who have prepared refreshments and done cleanup after service, especially those who have filled in 2 or 3 times when there were gaps to be filled. We are looking for a new process to provide refreshments in the fall. During the summer, Refreshments Hour provides water and lemonade, and we only need 1 person each week to look after this for 8 Sundays from July the 16th to the ingathering Sunday on September the 10th, when tea and coffee will return. There's a summer sign-up sheet in the foyer for you after the service. Each time we gather, we light a chalice. It reminds us that we are entering sacred space and time together. It reminds us of our connection to Unitarian Universalists all over the world. Please join me in our chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light, of friendship and love. Thank you, Joanne. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith or search for meaning, today you are one of us. You are welcome in this house of worship. Our mission is to nurture one another, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer to God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. Dorothy Frances Gurney wrote those words at the end of the 19th century as part of a larger poem about Eden. Our garden, at Hamilton First, is situated on traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. Today, Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across North America, and the land here is covered by many covenants and treaties. We are not the first people on this land, nor will we be the last. We acknowledge our connection to the web of all existence, honoring the past and preparing for the future. The stewardship of the original people who lived here preserved this place for our generation, and we seek to be respectful stewards of this place for those who follow. I'll now call Sue Prescott for a short reading and a video for you.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. My name is Sue Prescott.
Animals. Absolutely every animal on this planet.
And I'm very happy to speak with you today about nature and how our native plants fit into all our lives. So let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and this thing called love. Woo! Well, some of you may remember that song. It came out in the 1960s by Jewel Akins, and he was talking about the relationships between two people. Today, I'm going to talk about our connections and our relationships, and even our love affair we have with nature. You know, we cannot thrive without our connections with each other, no more than we can thrive without our connections with nature. Our Indigenous peoples have a word that they actually hold very, very highly. You can talk to anybody. It's called respect. One of the principles that we have at the Unitarian Church says, and I'll repeat, respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are a part. I'll say that again. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. So let's look at that respect a minute. It can mean courtesy, it can mean consideration, it can mean sensitivity, and it can also mean thoughtfulness. So when I wanted to talk to you today, I was trying to figure out how I can connect that with those words with somebody who has actually talked about nature and our environment. How can I put those two together? Well, I came across an organization doing research, and it's called the Krish Manturi Foundation Trust. It's named after a man called Jiddu Krishnamurti. He lived in India from 1895 to 1986. He was a philosopher, a speaker, and a writer, and Now, some actual notable individuals were actually influenced by him. Some of them were George Bernard Shaw, the Dalai Lama, Jackson Pollock, and Eckhart Tolle, just to name a few. But this is what he wrote, and I'm going to quote from what he said about what is nature. Nature is the river. Any river, it could be the Ganges, the Thames, or the Mississippi. Nature is those mountains, snow-clad with dark blue valleys and range of hills meeting the sea. The universe is part of nature. He goes on to say, be in communication with nature, be a part of it, be aware. To admire a deer, the lizard on the wall, that broken tree branch lying on the ground. Look at the evening star and new delicate moon without a word, without saying anything, but watch that single star and new delicate moon as though it's for the very first time. If there is such communication between you and nature, you can commune with the person sitting next to you. It is a sense that we are all together, that we are all human beings, not divided, not broken up, not belonging to any group or race, but we are all human beings living on this extraordinary, beautiful earth. Because if we indeed lose the relationship with nature, then we lose the relationship with humanity. Something to think about. So I'm going to introduce a video called Why Native Plants by Douglas Tallamy. He's a well-respected American entomologist, ecologist, and conservationist. He's written and co-authored several books and many papers. He actually advocates for the home gardener providing a habitat for native species. Now, in the video, he will talk about a meadow, but it's only in context of actually providing a habitat. So I quote, because a habitat is to provide cover, food, and nesting sites for birds, insects, and other wildlife. Because without this habitat of these species, which you're going to see in the video, you're very accustomed to see them. I know you love them all. We all love our nature and we love our animals. But without this important habitat, they're going to disappear. So if we have the video, can we show that now?
Animals, absolutely every animal on this planet, gets its food directly from plants. Gets its food either by eating a plant or by eating something else that ate the plant. And that's because plants are the only organisms that can capture the sun's energy and turn it into food. The most important group of animals that take energy from plants and pass it to other animals are the insects that eat plants. We'll call them insect herbivores. And most insect herbivores are only able to eat a particular group of plants. And we call that specialization. They can only eat the plants that they have co-evolved with because plants defend themselves with nasty chemicals, and it takes long periods of time for insects to develop the physiological ability to digest those chemicals. When we create a meadow, we are in effect restoring an ancient food web. And this works best if we use the native plants that were originally part of that food web. We'd like to favor native plants because the insect herbivores that evolved where you want to put your meadow evolved in concert with those native plants. They have specialized on those native plants over many, many thousands of years, which have enabled those insects to eat them. Those same insects have no evolutionary exposure to plants that evolved in China or Europe. They won't be able to eat these plants. They won't be able to digest them. They won't even recognize them as food plants. So if you're creating a meadow, choose plants that are native to your area, the country. A good example of an insect that specializes on one group of plants because of that plant's chemistry is our friend the monarch butterfly. It eats milkweeds and nothing else because it's able to break down the nasty chemicals that are in milkweeds. But it's unable to digest any other type of plant. If we cut milkweeds down then, monarch larvae cannot crawl off and eat some other type of plant. So if we destroy the plants that these insect herbivores have specialized on, they will have nothing to eat and will be doomed to extinction. So stop and think about it. So many animals depend on insects for their food. All amphibians, for example, eat insects. So do many reptiles and rodents. And 96% of our terrestrial birds rear their young on insects. If we replace our native plants with non-native plants, then all of those animals won't have enough to eat. And that'll hit biodiversity very hard. And of course, that's exactly what we've done by creating lawns and landscaping with non-native plants that evolved outside of our local ecosystems. So remember what a meadow is all about. It's not just a beautiful place, but it's a place where things can live. Living things have two requirements. They need food and they need a place to live. Your meadow provides both. It provides food because of the plants that you put in your meadow. And if you put many different types of plants in your meadow, you'll have a diversity of food for a diversity of insects, and you'll have a diversity of natural enemies that will eat those insects. And the meadow provides habitat, hiding places, those little niches where the birds and the other meadow creatures can nest and rear their young. Planting a native wildflower meadow is so much more beautiful and dynamic, both structurally and in terms of species, than planting a monoculture such as a lawn. Somebody once said that gardening is a way of showing that you believe in tomorrow. And I think that's never been more true than today, because the way we garden, the way we create places like meadows, is going to determine what life looks like tomorrow.
Okay, we will now be singing hymn number 1067.
You can all, as you're able and willing. Mother Earth, beloved garden, live. Oh, there we go. I'll wait for the words to come up. There we go. I was like, why isn't anyone singing with me? I'm all alone. Okay, let's do that again. 3, 4. Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure underfoot. All our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and fruit. Herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tend and plow. With the pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you be here now. Father Air's inspiration holds together all that lives. As we breathe, your mind see clearly, leading us to love and give. Raging whirlwind, whispered breezes, violent gale, and gentle cloud. With the blade as sharp as morning east, we ask you be here now. Brother,
Oh, yes, it's you first.
Snuck up on you. Good morning. My name is Tim Versteeg. I am the religious educator at the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. My pronouns are he, him. And today we have a story that was requested by Joanne Tunnicliffe, which I loved because it's also one of my all-time favorite stories. And the copy I have was given to me by my mother many, many, many years ago. Probably 200, as Myas once said, about one of these old books that I brought in. The story for all ages this morning is called The Dead Tree, and as I say, was a particular favorite of mine. But before you think me uncharacteristically morbid growing up, I would share that the story was later reprinted with the title The Gift of the Tree, and illustrates that the pattern of life is circular, and for every loss there are gains as well. It is illustrated by Charles Robinson, and words are by Alvin Tresselt. It stood tall in the forest. For 100 years or more, the oak tree had grown and spread its shade. Birds nestled in its shelter. Squirrels made their homes in ragged bundles of sticks and leaves held high in the branches, and in the fall they garnered their winter food from the rich rain of acorns that fell from the tree. Tucked under its gnarled roots, small creatures found safety from the fox and owl. Slowly, slowly over the years, the forest soil increased as the brown, leathery leaves, shaken down by the autumn winds, moldered under the snow. But even as the tree grew, life gnawed at its heart. Carpenter ants tunneled through the strength of the oak. Termites ate out passageways in wondrous patterns. A broken limb let the dusty spores of fungus enter the heartwood of the tree, and a rot spread inside the healthy bark. Year by year, the tree grew weaker as its enemies worked. Each spring, fewer and fewer leaves unfolded, and its great reaching branches turned gray with death. Woodpeckers peppered the limbs with holes, looking for the tasty grubs and beetles that had tunneled the wood. And here and there they dug bigger holes to hold their babies. In winter storms, one by one, the great branches broke and crashed to the floor of the forest until there remained only the proud trunk holding its broken arms up to the sky. Now it was the autumn weather, and it was long and lazy. Yellow-gray and misty mornings, middays filled with false summer warmth, and the nights pierced with frost. Then came a day of hurricane wind and slashing rain, and as the fierce wind shrieked through the forest, the tree split off and crashed to the ground. There it lay shattered, with only a jagged stump to mark where it had stood for so long. The cruel days of winter followed. A family of deer mice settled into a hole that had once held an arching branch. A rabbit found protection from the biting wind in the rotted center of the trunk, and the ants and termites, the dormant grubs and silent fungus waited out the winter weather under the bark and deep in the wood. In the spring, the young sun warmed the forest floor, and acorns sprouted to replace the fallen giant. Now new life took over the dead tree. Old woodpecker holes made snug homes for chipmunks. The hollow center of the trunk sheltered a family of raccoons, while beneath the bark spread the wood-eating fungus, ghost white and sulfur yellow. And deep inside, the carpenter ants and the termites continued their digging and eating. On the underside, where the trunk lay half buried in the damp and musty leaf loam, the mosses stitched a green carpet softer than the softest wool. Fragile ferns clustered in its shadow, mushrooms popped out of the decaying mold, and scarlet clumps of British soldiers sprinkled the loosening bark. The years passed, and the oak-hard wood grew soft and punky. It crawled with 100,000 grubs and beetles, centipedes with their scrambling, scurrying legs, snails and slugs all fed on the rotting wood, and earthworms made their way through the feast, helping to turn the tree once more into earth. Pale shell fungus clung to the sides like clusters of giant clamshells, eating away and growing as the tree decayed. A skunk came waddling. With her string of babies, sniffing at the wood, she ripped into its softness with her claws to uncover the scrambling life inside, and eagerly the family feasted. Secretive forest birds scratched and picked for grubs and worms, pulling the tree apart bit by bit. And while the melting winter snows and soft spring rains hastened the rotting of the wood. And in this way, as new trees grow in strength from acorns that had fallen long years ago, the great oak returned to the earth. On the ground there remained only a brown ghost of richer loam where the proud tree had come to rest. And that's the end of our story for today. And I would remind kids and those young at heart that if you are getting a little fidgety during the service, there is the card at the back with some activities, drawing and such, so feel free to avail yourselves of that.
Right. Now it's my turn. Okay. We have come to that point in the service when we have a moment of contemplation. And I invite you to relax, close your eyes if you like, and breathe deeply. Following a short reading written by Tara Shannon, there will be some silence followed by the sounds of nature, during which you are welcome to come up and light a candle for joys or concerns. "Nothing's working," said Rabbit. "Have you tried unplugging?" said Bear. "I don't plug into anywhere," said Rabbit. "Oh, yes, you do," said Bear. "You're plugged into the world around you." "Oh," said Rabbit, giving this some thought. "How do I unplug then?" Close your eyes. Let your muscles relax. Listen only to the sound of yourself breathing in and out, said Bear. After a while, when you feel ready, plug back in and try again. Part of building a nurturing community includes sharing our joys and sorrows. And today we include some of these. We have a note from Jean Hallett, and she has both sorrows and joys. Her sorrow is that she has the passing of 2 of her cousins this week. Shelley, who was 77 of dementia, and Elsa, 89 of blood cancer. She asks that we remember them to rest in peace. We also know that there are other sorrows amongst us, too tender to share, so we hold those in this space today with a reminder that you are not alone. There are joys here too. Jean also says that she's glad to still be alive, celebrating 2 birthdays this week. Is that yourself? 84 years old, and Gordon, who's 87. And there's a joy from Ruby Braun. On behalf of myself and my daughter Leanne and son-in-law, we would like to express our joys and gratitude to Karen Trollope Kumar for her lovely patience and all of the times she communicated with my daughter to make her wedding here fit her. So thank you, Karen. And a joy from our leader, Joanne Tunnicliffe. We've had open gardens this week. First one was yesterday, the Spectator Open Gardens. And despite the rain, we had a good number of enthusiastic visitors. The comments were glowing. The Thursday, July the 27th is our next Open Gardens here, so we love to see you all. And we are now celebrating joys amongst us and rejoice that the happiness flows through our community. Our offering is a reminder of the spirit of generosity at the heart of our religious community. When we share our financial resources, we are ensuring the existence of our church. We are also taking donations for Eva Rothwell today. So if any of you have anything you need collected, we have some young volunteers who are going to come round and help with that. Also, our ushers will have an envelope for any cash donations you might wish to donate. So we will now receive our offering while we listen to our music ministers.
You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say you wanna be left alone. You say love only made you weep and moan. Let me tell you something that you know in your bones. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say your soul's like a dry riverbed. Stop waiting for the water long ago. You said you better pray all night for the rain instead. Life comes like a tidal wave over your head. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say waiting for love takes too long. Dulls a sharp mind, weakens a strong. Well, you may be right, but you may be wrong. 'Cause love can make a mountain come tumbling down. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. The river washes over every woman and man, feet in the gravel and mud in your hands. Nothing can stand against love's command. Every boulder turns into a grain of sand. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock.
Your gifts in support of our ministry to one another and the community are appreciated. Thank you. Now our garden team leader will develop. Joanne Tunnicliffe will give us our little homily.
Anyway, I'm Joanne Tunnicliffe, and I go by the pronouns she, her. But today we have an honor to do. We have an abridged homily that's been adapted from a requested article recently sent to the World Wildlife Federation, our grant sponsor. They asked the gardeners to explain their journey and created our Carolinian Wildlife Garden along the way. Now, we asked for volunteers. And of course, we have Rita Mubarak. I don't know how well you know her, but she goes, I'll do it. And next thing you know, there's a fabulous article written and sent off. And I'm very honored today to try and do justice to that, but it is abridged. So, are you ready, Rita? A wave. Are we ready to get back to the gardens? UN Declaration. Humans are a weapon of mass destruction. Humans are the most invasive species on the planet. First Unitarian is following environmental justice missions, creating habitat for wildlife using Carolinian plants. Wildlife seeks these eco-friendly foods, plus the havens to safely shelter. Now, our gardeners mostly retire. Some of them actually sing, but you can hear them humming Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi. They took all the trees, put them in the tree museum. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? When Nancy joined in 2011, she just spent her time cleaning up garbage, so she contacted CPR to help. So many invasive plants, English ivy, tree of heaven, Japanese knotweed for starters. Trinette explained the church buying this hardware store, a triangular lot with steep sides down to the railway tracks, just like a Noah's Ark. Nancy added, oh, like a Noah's Ark, you could sit in the bow and imagine the ebb and flow of time. Trinette noticed the lack of insects, birds, and squirrels here at UU, because in her own garden that backs into railroad tracks, she had all those things, including raccoons. Queen Anne's lace, English ivy, orange daylilies covered the property. Fortunately, we had lots of trees, so our restoration was weeding and removal. When Joanne and Alan, everything has to be in first to be fair to all the gardeners, okay? So when Joanne and Al joined the team, they brought knowledge to enhance the creation of a drought-free Carolinian pollinator garden. Funding through grants dramatically increased the native plants. Nancy commented on Alan's strength for heavy work, and Chester, their lab, brought an emotional lift to the team. The team believes that Joanne acts as the glue that weaves the small garden community together. Susan recounts, Joanne's enthusiasm for native and Carolinian plants have affected the entire team. A series of talks given by Joanne accented the importance of flora and fauna relationships. Today, a few oaks stand as the keystone species supporting hundreds of fauna. Native trees once supporting wildlife have declined due to imported diseases, fungi, and insects. This sudden change challenges fauna in finding desirable food. So by diversification, we here are giving them options to feed, exist, and continue into the future. UN on the environment. Without nature, we have nothing. Without nature, we are nothing. So why are we continuing to wage war on nature? Conservationists claim we abuse the land because we regard it as our commodity. When we see the land as community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. We should be protecting the rights of Indigenous people who have always been the most effective guardians of biodiversity. Our own seventh principle is based on an ancient Haudenosaunee philosophy. They believed decisions today should result in a sustainable world 7 generations into the future. The Indigenous people's worldview is that the world is a gift and humans have a responsibility to reciprocate. Much of this advice is mirrored through more of our gardening team. Sue emailed photos of newly blossomed snowdrops to the team with the headline, "How does our garden grow? Despite accumulated winter debris, these early gems poke through to cheer us up." Braiding Sweetgrass by Indigenous author Dr. Robin Kimmerer explains that the well-being of the land is inextricably linked to the well-being of community and the individual. We should be viewing the land as our teacher, taking only what we need, use it well, and demonstrate gratitude. To Dr. Kimmerer, this is the process of reciprocal restoration. In restoring the land, we are restoring ourselves. We, the gardening team, are not only members of a social group, but we are individuals from diverse theological perspectives who have chosen to walk together on a journey with meaning. We have a covenantal relationship whose purpose is grow in relation to one another and the earth. We want to strongly impact on the environment. Joanne states that through education and leading by example, our Carolinian wildlife habitat gardens are recognized for their leadership in protecting habitats. Susan agrees that the benefit of this work is seen in increased wildlife and butterflies. Many visitors compliment on the work accomplished, and our knowledge brings competence in answering questions. We must remember that this is a work in progress. Every year, birds migrate here, even endangered monarch butterflies who have witnessed huge habitat and food supply loss. Check out our milkweed, raise families, top up on nectar from our native plants before journeying to Mexico. Flying squirrels occupy the lofty owl box that Tony Wallace made for us out there. Didn't think that we'd have flying squirrels in there, did you? No. And below, a pair of rare and endangered eastern milk snakes twine together in a mating ritual, and then scoot off underneath the cover of the gardens. These are the gems we want to remember. Ian, a longtime gardener, was suddenly swarmed by a benign solitary bee colony shining iridescent green. Everybody took a break to go and observe. Every new sighting brings credence to our effort in developing habitat for wildlife. We are joined by earth stewards and interconnections around us. Sue has learned in the gardens about connections, not just to each other, but to the wildlife that depends on us to sustain their habitat. We need to create a world where people and nature thrive together. Sue has also put her artistic talents painting nature scenes on all the birdhouses. Nancy pointed out that our arranged bench along the Dundurn Street gardens allows weary hikers to rest, observing flora and fauna. Gabriella commented that each gardener mirrors the gardens, bringing their own strengths, thoughts, and personalities, supporting both humans and gardens alike. We are learning to give back because in the process of restoration, we restore ourselves. Jihan expressed her learning best through activity, and so she has, with gardens full of invasive bellflowers and unwanted grass. Gordon is the king of finding decades-old garbage, ridding areas of invasives, creating toad habitats, and insect towers or teepees. When Rita joined the gardening, Joanne showed her how to dig, weed, mulch, and plant, caring and repairing rather than consuming. We all became earth stewards. Rita remembers Joanne saying, "You are now a friend of Mother Nature." Rita soon identified her role as one with the interconnected web of existence, the UU 7th principle. Rita was so transformed that with the help of the Guyanese nurseries in Oswego, she began a Carolinian garden. Another newcomer, Leah, states that community gardens change attitudes and behaviors. At the grassroots, people learn to take actions and make positive change. Are we heeding this call for action? Can our garden, a small action like the flapping of a butterfly wing, be enough to step up to nature and biodiversity? Given that only constant is change, then I think we're probably in the right direction. Rita is not that optimistic, but like social critic Cornel West, she states, "I'm a prisoner of hope." All right, here we go. We are stardust, we are golden, we are caught in the devil's garden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Blessed be, and let it be so.
Thank you, Joanne. We will now sing our second hymn. I think we all know this one. It's a perennial favourite. 1064, Blue Boat Home.
You can rise. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away
As we extinguish the chalice, I'd like for you to take with you a few words from Pope Francis. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine upon itself, and the flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other, no matter what the difficulty. Life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. Thank you. We'll now have a postlude, which, if you know it and want to join in, please do so.
Hold your head up, lift the top of your mind, put your eyes on the earth, lift your heart to your own home planet. What do you see? What is your attitude? Are you here to improve or damn it? Look right now, and you will see we're only here by the skin of our teeth, as it is. So take heart and take care of your link with life. Makes the world go round, it's only temporary confusion. It ain't governments that make the people strong, it's the opposite illusion. Look right now, and you will see they're only here by the skin of their teeth, as it is. So take heart and take care of your link with life. Keep saying, of our teeth as it is. So take heart and take care of your link with life. It's beautiful if you got the sense to take care of your source of perfection. Mother Nature, she's the daughter of God and the source of all protection. Look right now, and you will see she's only here by the skin of her teeth as it is. So take heart and take care of your link with life. Oh, keep saying, and praying, keep on praying, carry it on. We're saying, come on, keep praying.